It being 7:01, I'll call the select board meeting to order for Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Is there anyone here for public comment? Step right up.
Marie Letarte, Director of the Bigelow Library. And this is just an update on the progress of the Public Library Construction Program grant. The OPM firm was hired, the owner's project manager. The company is P3. And he's been helping the town find a designer. The RFQ for the designer went out and they are due on Friday. And then the permanent building committee will review or appoint a review committee to review the designs, and we'll have the finalists, I guess, do presentation, probably 3 finalists do presentations and interviews. And then that's where the fun happens, where the library advisory committee works with the permanent building committee. And the next permanent building committee meeting is May 13th, which I guess where we'll talk about the proposals. And somewhere between May and December, somewhere in May, they'll decide on the designers. And then between May and December is where focus groups happen. And I'm sure Selectboard will be talked to, and Clinton residents will have the opportunity they'll decide based on our building program and feedback from the public, whether to renovate with an addition or to build new. And the site that was chosen, which was on the proposal, our original grant proposal, was on Chestnut Street next to the Verizon station. And so the hard dates are December, and that's where we submit a Massachusetts Public Library Construction Program level of design to the library commissioners. And I will see you again before then with another update, I'm sure.
Great. Thank you so much for keeping us in the loop. Appreciate it. Next up is a review of minutes for multiple dates.
Madam Chair, I'd like
Yeah.
to make a motion to table the approval just to go through more thoroughly due to the sensitive nature and to ensure that everything was captured. I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes approval will be tabled until further notice. Next up, we have Phil Duffy, Director of Community and Economic Development, on 2 items.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
Hello.
members of the board. Here to ask for, I think, I don't have a copy of the agenda in front of me. Which is the first item?
Okay, Ash Street, CDBG
Yes.
grant.
Recommendation for award contract to Amarello and Sons of Worcester for the Ash Street project. Project will repave Ash Street, install some new drainage, as well as curbing. CDBG funded program. Contract in the amount of $273,700.
Any questions?
Timeline?
We will know more after we consult with the contractor. Our goal is to do this project in the window between the end of Little League and the start of school.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation for the Ash Street CDBG construction contract. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Okay, next we have Church Street Municipal Lot Charging Stations, easements.
Yes, requesting the board's signature on easement granted to National Grid to account for the electrical service to charging stations, which will be located down at the Church Street lot. Plan is to come off a utility pole on Church Street overhead to a location in the municipal lot, which is the forward part of the lot, right near a bump out along the chain link fence separating the lot from the elementary school, and to install two high-speed electrical charging stations. That means 4 parking spaces.
You said 4?
Yeah, there'll be 4. Each station has 2 charging.
Charge
ports.
2 chargers.
Madam Chairman.
Yeah.
Phil, what is the duration for a full charge from the?
These stations, I understand, will get you to 80% in about either 30 or 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, they'll move. They're the fast charging, the newer technology. And along these lines, we received this grant, I think, in August of last year, and we're still waiting on the engineering from National Grid for the Walnut Street station. So that one will be following shortly after, hopefully.
Will the fee structure be
Yeah.
consistent with what's already been established?
The fee structure will be whatever we decide it is. It's the power will be coming off of a meter with power with that bill going to the town. So it will be what we decide. And you have to forgive me. I could have brought along the specifications on the charging stations and the software. It's one of the widely available pay software systems, but we set the rates.
Right, so currently down at Parks and Rec and behind the Clinton Elementary School, we did set a rate there.
Mhm.
But these charging stations are a different, what do they call it, level 2 or phase 2 or
Yeah,
whatever?
level 2, I believe. There, yeah.
Level 2.
Yeah.
So if these are a higher level, then I would assume that there's gonna be a different fee structure based upon how quick it gets done.
That will be up to this board. Really, you're just paying, my understanding is you're just paying for the kilowatts, and whether it takes, 3 hours to get the kilowatts there or 45 minutes, I think it's the same charge. So the pricing strategy will be determined by this board.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the Church Street Municipal Parking Lot Charging Station easements.
A second, sorry.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
Thank you. And on that, the National Grid easement form requests that all 5 of you sign it. I could have sworn I left it on that table last night, but it's not there. So I'll print it up in the course of your meeting. I'll bring it up and just pass it down. the table.
Okay. Sounds good.
So,
I know.
Oh, you have them?
I
I
don't,
signed it. I thought it was an easement.
Oh.
Got moved to the other area.
Oh, come move to the warrant table.
Okay.
It's gonna take-
so it's in there?
Yeah.
Okay. I think after I sign, it, maybe got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. That's all I have.
Think so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh, we got here. Next up is a draft of the annual town meeting warrant to present to the finance committee and newspaper. I honestly haven't had a chance to read it. This version. Are there any changes from the last time that we expedited?
There were some, just clarifying language, Madam Chair. As we've talked before, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11. So the first 11 are just the annual articles that are standard every year. So those are all the same as the last time. I know 9 and 10, for the last number of years, the board has been putting money into the OPEB fund, the health trust, and the stabilization fund. I don't know if there was something the board was looking to do that again this year. So it would really just be trying to identify an amount for those 2 items. And then it starts at Article 12 would be new requests. So 12, 13, 14, and 15 are from the facilities department. 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way to 23, 24, actually 25 no, sorry, 26, are all from the Public Works, Department of Public Works. Article 27 is the rail trail, the town and the Clinton Greenway Trust has put in another grant. It was due in February. I think they're hoping any day now to hear on the grant and maybe hoping by maybe town meeting that we would have an award. But that would be the town's share towards that grant, as we have been doing for the last several years. The next item is just hoping, if we can come to an agreement with one of the unions, we can put that on for discussion. And then number 29 would be an article as part of that negotiations. Article 30 is from the Personnel Board asking to make 3 changes to the personnel bylaw that they had put forward. Article 31, and I know Mr. Duffy, if there were any questions on these next couple, I know he had been working with the planning board on those. This is the Article 31 is new changes to the federal floodplain overlay map. So the town has a floodplain overlay district in their bylaw. This then would have to be amended to include this new data. And in order to allow the town of Clinton and people that own property in the floodplain to participate in the federal flood insurance program, we would need to have our bylaw reflect current federal language. So this is updated language that if not adopted by this town meeting, it would knock people out of the flood insurance program for our communities. Number 32 is a bylaw provided by the, I'm sorry, no, that's a the second bylaw, which goes with the floodplain. So there are two areas where they would have to amend. So. And then Article 33 is for the Connex boxes that the storage boxes that people would have. I think they were initially barred, and now they would be allowed under certain conditions. And then 34 is the citizen petition. So. And then there were 2 other items. I know the board talked at the last meeting, whether they wanted to go forward with the HERO Act tax abatement. And we can add that if the board wanted to pursue it. And the other was the vacant storefront registry bylaw that I know that Mr. Duffy had been working on that one as well too. So. Other than that, I think those were all the items that we had at this point for the town meeting.
What's the timeline for this? Can you remind me?
Yeah, it would be in 2 weeks. I think the finance committee was looking to review tomorrow, I believe, some of the money articles. And then in 2 weeks, it would need to be sent to the paper. So, if there was anything and town council will certainly be involved to review, but didn't know if there were any substantial changes that the board would want to make before we get to final wording.
I had a couple things.
Yeah.
I was looking on.
I was just.
So for Article 8, $50,000 through from the assessor's overlay reserve account. I had spoke to Mr. Baird and The most that has been spent out of that account was in FY '24, which was just under $17,000. FY '25, the latest figure was 13,400. So I believe that used to be $25,000. So if we were going to consider the HERO Act, could we reduce the 50,000 to the 25,000 and then use some of that to offset the increase on the other side, which is the last number was roughly $50,000 to fund the HERO Act based upon the information that was available.
And that's 50,000 based on, I mean, people would need to take advantage of it, similar to this, like if it's, we allocate 50,000, but not even half of that is spent.
Exactly it, which I also think which possibly could be attributed to the program itself, whether it's being utilized or not. I know that we've had a few administrative requests on this last budget. And I know previously there was some administrative assistance through the senior rebate program. So whether it's educating the public on the availability or whether it's trying to identify suitable tasks that we can connect with the seniors on. But I think that can probably be reviewed in general to see if we can better connect with the senior population.
And the HERO Act is not on here.
Not unless we,
Got it. Okay. Okay.
and another one I had was, so on Article 15, it's the $100,000 to be transferred from the High Street Improvement Project to cover the holiday lights. But then I also believe that number was, thought I saw that in another article. I could be wrong. Okay, so maybe that's it. Maybe,
Okay.
so that wouldn't
Might
be,
have just been another number on a previous drawing.
um, the only other thing that I'd like to just kind of call attention to is just based upon the vehicle requests or the equipment requests for the DPW. I know last year we had tabled one of the requests just because of they were purchasing another piece of equipment. But I think between the pickup truck, there's the high pressure water jetter for 25,000. What's this called? Rotary screw type compressor. And then there's a water filtration plant pump motor. The backhoe for 150,000, the asphalt hot box for 26,000. I would be curious if we could see which of those are pressing that they cannot go out with. If everything is needed this fiscal year, then we can reevaluate that. But is there any possibility of being able to fund some of them versus all of them this fiscal year?
Yeah.
And I think there was a piece of, they were gonna be trading in some equipment that was going to be, that would offset some of the cost, and I thought it was the backhoe.
Potentially, I think the equipment may have been from the landfill, so I think then they were gonna try to offset some of that cost as well. And several of these are also for the water filtration. It would be out of the water sewer enterprise fund as well too. So
Okay,
anything
Is that
that's for
denoted in
water
here?
or for water purposes. So I think it would be.
Is that mentioned in here? Or like which ones would be the enterprise funds?
Yeah, I think that would be 18, 19, 20, and the 21 is sewer, so that would be for the water sewer as well too. So I think it would be those four. So at least those four could go in the enterprise fund, so it wouldn't affect the general fund. And the million for resurfacing would come out of the capital projects fund. So again, that wouldn't affect the general fund.
Michael, can I just ask you a question on Article 23? I mean, we had discussion when we were talking the DPW budget, but on that redesign for Sterling Street, obviously, I mean, that's not even 2 or 3 million now, that's upwards to 10 million. But do we ever get an answer on why, where they did the initial work, why we have to pay them another 450?
We did actually, and I apologize. I have a memo from the engineering firm, so I can distribute that. It was their reason was solely from the requirements when they submitted their, they did their design, they submitted to review to the state. The state came back with comments, and all the state's comments then required redesign, which then added to the cost. So that was their.
Okay, so there wasn't, so I guess you could say there was no deficiency on their part by the initial requirements that were submitted. It was just that the state had changed the design so that
Yeah, I don't
they
know.
had to put more work into.
Yeah, I don't know if they changed the design. I think that the state came with comments of saying, well, we think you should do it this way, or it might be better that way, or we'd like to see it, done differently. So it wasn't a deficient design. I think the state had a different philosophy or a different view on how they would like to see it done.
So does that mean if the state gives feedback or notes, then that is,
Right.
you have to take them?
This money is with state and federal money, so it would have to be approved by the DOT to get that funding. Because this design here would then open up for a larger construction fund, which would, I think, the project is, I think initially it was 5 million, and Mr. Duffy just walked in, and I know he's familiar with this project too, so I don't know what the current construction cost is. So
We
I don't-
could
Mr.
start-
Duff,
can we
just
start
on
with,
the
like,
Sterling Street
what
project, do
was?
you remember what the current construction cost is at right now for that TIP program project?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Many millions. I'm trying, if you'd like, I can go back to the, my
Yeah,
office and
no,
look up
no,
the
that's
tip.
fine.
It's,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do that. Which
Yeah, I
take-
thought it was about 5 million or so.
Yeah.
So,
5 million now or 5 million originally? Is that what we're saying, that the project is now a $5 million price tag?
right,
Okay.
to build it, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
the town pays for the design. And
Right.
then the state, through the TIP program, state and federal money, they'll pay for the construction.
Yeah, no different than Water Street or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
so I know when that discussion was taking place, I had brought up about the High Street improvement project, how there were funds still available in that I think was upwards of 500,000. So if we're removing 100,000 of that for lighting, is it possible to if we move forward with that 450, is it possible to offset some of that cost?
I mean, you could, but the 500,000 that's still left in the balance, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, is a borrowing article, right? The 1.5 million. So we borrowed 1 million of it and there's 500,000 left, but it's an authorization to borrow 500,000. So it's not as though that there's funds sitting in an account.
Okay.
We would then, if we want to spend those, we would then have to borrow the 500,000. But right, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. If we're going to borrow for this and then that authorization's already there, you could just change the authorization to include Sterling Street as well as High Street. Yeah, I'm not sure if that 100,000 that facilities is looking for is from that account. Because again, if it is, then we would have to borrow that. And I don't think that's the intention, to borrow. So.
Okay, so it just says available funds. When I had read through it the first time, I thought it was referring to the High Street improvement project.
Right, that's what it says. Right, so we'd have to double check that. Yep. That's a good point.
I just have a question for Mr. Duffy on that, on Article 15, well, related to Article 15.
Hey, Phil. Hey, Phil. Sorry to keep bugging you. I know that wasn't exactly why you came here. Do you mind stepping up to the mic? We're looking at Article 15, which is, this is the High Street improvement for the holiday lights. The 1-year one.
Yeah, so my question would be, so through the banner program.
Yep.
For the fundraising, do you have a rough number on what that generates? And then, if that's something that we could also look towards offsetting some of that $100,000 for the holiday lighting where.
Let's see, in subsequent years, it doesn't generate that much money. The renewal fees are about, I think, either 50 or 75 a year. We have 60 banners sold, so it's only about $4,300
Okay.
in rough numbers.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
No, Madam Chair, I just asked if we could check the wording on
Yeah.
articles, like especially 20 to 26. It looks like there's some parentheticals that are like an exclamation. Like if we're talking about the 450,000, it's the regular verbiage, I guess. But then at the end, it ends with Mass DOT has rejected initial plans or act in any manner relating thereto. I think there was an explanation put in here that just makes it very jarring. If we could, I've marked it up if you want, I can show you. It looks like it's just a DPW ones.
Sure, no, that's a good point. It's something we could work with town council
Yeah.
on changing some of that, because even all of these, they all kind of had an explanation.
I appreciate
for-
the explanation. I just don't know if that's how it's supposed to be.
Right, for the request, it was
Yeah.
just kind of copied it as the budget request was, but yeah, definitely it should
Thank
be, flavored.
Is there a timeline on that $450,000 where, like, if this was tabled, like, could it be tabled for this fiscal year and then reconsidered for the following year, or?
I think again, so you might, just the timing of the TIP projects and the schedule and when this project is coming up, when does design need to be complete? I mean, construction wasn't going to be until federal fiscal 27.
Fiscal federal year 27. The way the TIP projects work is that, again, as Mike mentioned, the town pays for the design. Mass DOT reviews those designs and then issues basically a certification of 25% completion, 75% completion. The shorter answer is there's no reason to delay it because the TIP is It's a multi-year, multi-project schedule of work that will be in the region that will be federally funded. And if while we're slotted in at 27 now, if we're not at 75% at certain date, then we'll move to 28. And a project from Lunenburg or Fitchburg or Ashburnham or some other community in the region will slot in. So in short, that's how this works. I have seen in the past multiple projects fall back in the tip because they're unready to proceed. The state agency is very wary of a community saying we'll catch up because it's a use it or lose it kind of thing. If you don't use that dollar, it goes back to the federal government. So they have to allocate the dollars in their region with certainty. So
I think the only challenge is when we discussed this the last time, the initial design cost was approximately 250,000.
Right.
So then the same firm is now going to do the redesign for 450,000. So I know there was mention of, could you look at another design firm to come in to see if the pricing is less than that, or are we committed to having to use the same design firm?
I can't speak to that. It's outside of my experience. And my experience with TIP projects is not great. The DPW director has always kind of ridden herd on these projects. It's a funding source. Projects I'm involved in, I'm in those projects because of the funding source primarily. So I can't answer that question.
Okay.
That would probably come with, but that would almost certainly come with delays. So.
My concern on that now is I think a $5 million project to let it go, and Sterling Street definitely needs to have, that's been horrendous for a long time. So I would, as much as I had the questions about it, I still think it would be penny wise and pound foolish to let that project go. So, I mean, that's.
For what it's worth, the town was solicited by Representative Kilcoyne's office about a month ago, asking for any suggestions for potential earmarks. We submitted a roster of projects covering multiple departments, and they communicated back to us that the project that they chose to pitch was $100,000 for the design of this project. If it comes through, we won't know until September, but that's a possibility.
So then I think the only other two things that would be the HERO Act and then the registry component, if the board had interest in
Yeah.
moving forward.
And that's the vacancy registry. Is that like in progress, or, I mean, I guess is the concept in progress? I guess I'm just looking at this time frame. And we're kind of, our next meeting is the 21st. So I guess I don't know what the newspaper deadline is.
It's usually about a week out.
So I guess we have to determine this now.
So
I mean,
if it was just a creation of the registry, as mentioned, without any,
I think we,
whatever, financial penalty, whatever the case, it would still have to follow the process of the bylaw, or is that something that could, like you had mentioned?
Well, that's
Sure.
really honestly, it's a question for Mr. Ward and Mr. Gibbons. So where these vacant property registries have been created in another town, there's a bylaw associated with it. There's not enough time to responsibly draft a bylaw
Yeah.
to engage the Board of Health, Building Commissioner, the community in a meaningful lawmaking process. So absent that, there may be two ways to continue to move the ball forward, allowing us the time to responsibly undertake that. One would be just to create the registry without any kind of penalty. My question to Mr. Ward and Mr. Gibbons would be, if you were to create basically a registry of vacant properties, where there was no penalty, it would be essentially on the order of data collection. but there was no penalty associated with failing to register. Would that require a bylaw, or could that be just a procedure?
I mean, I think I even have as a lot of, I mean, if you just had a procedure, who's procedure?
Exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, I just thought that, I mean, if you want to have a bylaw, I mean, this needs some serious vetting. This is not
Right.
going to be done in a week and a half from now. You have to have a lot of board input for this here to come up with the procedure, who's gonna, who's gonna keep the register, it requires a planning board, board of health. So, I mean, you can come up with a procedure, but I think if you want to have it to have some teeth, it should be a bylaw.
Understood, okay.
And so that would be one way to move the ball forward is to create it on an informal basis in anticipation of presumably shaking out some bugs and drafting a bylaw around that procedure for submittal to town meeting next year. And if you wanted to, if you wish to maybe take the temperature of town meeting on the idea, you could put it in a warrant article as kind of a, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to draft a vacant property registry and associated bylaw, with definitions and fees.
So that would just provide town support to then go through the process of beginning the drafting and whatnot.
Yeah, it would be a reality check. I mean, if it was overwhelmingly unpopular, then you'd have some indication that it's going to be unpopular next year. If it was endorsed, then you similarly have some guidance.
And it would still require town meeting approval the following,
And if you
or
could-
whatever the future
Yeah.
town meeting.
Yeah, whenever you do another one, yeah.
Okay. And at the very least, I'd like to see what the public's perspective on it is. If it doesn't get the approval, then there's no point of going through the process of creating.
Are you drafting that up or?
Me,
Yeah.
I have no problem doing it or working with Phil.
Well, if it's your intent to close the language to approve the warrant this evening, I can go back to my office and draft a couple sentences and give it to you, and you can vote to modify it, include it, or turn it down.
It's up to whatever the board, whatever the pleasure of the board is. If this is something the board wants to wait on, that's fine. If it's something you want to move forward with, I'm fine with that as well.
I'm fine with including it, kind of indifferent, so if you want to get a temperature, I don't know if we should vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who supported something that town meeting approved and then later rescinded, I would hate for us to go into this half baked, and we didn't go into that half baked just to change it. So I don't know if it's a good summer project, something
Okay.
for us to. I just don't. I think it's a good idea. I just think we should make sure we know what it is before we
It's fair.
go, because
What are
we're
you
gonna have
talking
to. Somebody's gonna have to defend it.
Green trees?
Yeah, and yeah.
Fair enough. That works.
We'll just keep
Yeah.
chipping away at it. Okay,
Okay, so there'll be nothing in this warrant
This
that
warrant.
refers to.
Right.
Okay.
Perfect.
and
I
then
would
the
support the
Hero
Hero
Act, yeah,
What is that? How heavy of a lift is that?
did you say 50,000?
No, I mean, like,
Oh, with writing it out,
The state already provided.
do we have language for them?
the language for it. Mr. Bailey has what the state had sent out. The copy was, I don't know, the electronic formatting of it was a disaster when it printed out.
Yeah.
And Joyce also tried to provide a copy of it and, but they provided sample language.
okay.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, I think that's something definitely could be put together, yeah, because it's all standard, it's all pretty template, yeah.
I think the only piece of it was to make it to not make it percentage based on COLA, just to make it that was a recommendation of the better,
Right, just to make it
So-
an amount.
Yeah.
An amount. So then if you want to change it, you go back and change it at town meeting. So it's not just automatically going up every year.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Okay. Right, so with the addition of the HERO Act, we can send this draft to Finance Committee. You want to vote on it, or are we good?
I'll make,
Anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the annual town meeting draft warrant as discussed.
Yeah, for the May 7th version.
May
I
7th.
don't think, yeah.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. All right, next up is, I guess just maybe if there's any outstanding discussion items, to present to the finance committee on the current budget.
So this doesn't reflect what did they make any votes at that last meeting? I guess
Yeah,
didn't watch to the end. I watched a lot of it. I
It
know
was
they,
just discussion.
fine.
yeah, yeah.
So, and they were gonna, then we'll go into subcommittee.
Okay.
Okay, but speaking of, I guess, does anyone want to talk about anything related to the town budget first? Any specific,
I had, there was, I understand the position of the finance committee to not add new positions. And I think based upon our experience so far with human resources, and that there's been multiple recommendations by different HR managers of the recommendation of adding a generalist. It didn't sound like the temperature was leaning in the direction of adding that position. My position on that would be, for what that department was originally carved out to do, essentially creating a department and bringing the town in compliance with, the local, state, and federal laws. We've seen on multiple occasions, it's a heavy lift, and I really believe that it's in the best interest of the town's operation to add at the very least one generalist position. I know multiple were requested. But for what that department handles and the vision for that department, I don't think we can continue to wait to add staff.
yeah, I have a concern about the same thing about missing like the window to offer some assistance. I guess when I was on the search committee hiring Christine Purple, I mean, our goal was for someone, at least, you gotta start with at least one person to come in and assess the situation. And, I think there was discussion at that point to try to offer some assistance, whether it be time of another person, and that person both straddles the town and and the school. Just the sheer number of people is quite large. And to your point about compliance, I just fear, I do understand that this is kind of tricky given kind of the economics of the economic climate right at the moment, but I just fear waiting another year to address this issue might be tricky.
Michael, did you ever find out how many full-time employees the town has?
I asked HR, I know he was working on that, trying to get a handle, like full-time, part-time, all that, so, I think I have something on the health insurance, which would have that amount, so let me see if I can pull that number. At least we know what's coming here.
So the HR person was so busy that he didn't have time to tell us how many employees is actually.
No, I think,
No, I mean, that's actually making our.
yeah, I think, and I don't know if record keeping is, again, compliance record keeping, I don't know where that stands, but yeah, it's been a difficult number to obtain.
And it was mentioned during, I believe it was our joint meeting, of sending the HR responsibilities back to each department head for them to manage as they had done in the past. And
I mean, to be clear, that was a proposal by the finance.
Finance
Committee.
Committee, exactly right. Yeah, proposal, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
or suggestion.
yeah. So you figure that, I don't know if any of us were on the board when they ultimately moved forward with creating that position.
HR?
Yep,
Yeah.
you were on it. So what, do you have any?
I don't want to back.
No, I understand. There was obviously a reason and there was support behind creating it. And then here we are. I mean, within the last 5 years to 7 years, right? Then now there's not any appetite to fund positions within it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was any, I can't speak for other boards. And I think, I don't think people understood the problem then. I'm not sure they fully understand it now. It's something we've been trying to do for a long time now. It's the increased professionalization of, it's not professionalization, it's just giving the people here the tools to do an increasingly complicated job. Expectations are harder, regulations are harder. It's a lot more complicated than it used to be. And so, I think it's, I mean, I have to go back. It was early on. But, I mean, it's a big number
Yeah.
in a tough year. So I think that's, and again, I'm not going to speak for the finance committee, but we're not going back. That'd be folly.
So when we say it was a big number, that was,
I mean, right
there were
now,
multiple recommendations that HR manager proposed. So we could always choose something
Yeah.
in between. It doesn't have to be the full ask of.
yeah, I'm not speaking in opposition to it. It's
Yeah.
just, it's one of the, it's a big jump and I don't know, can we, again, I'm
Yeah,
arguing for the
fine.
finance committee here and I'm not on the finance committee. So, I don't run an HR office, so it's hard for me to say, whether we can get along with one person, a director and one person, or if we need two people. At some point, we just have to figure out how much we can afford this year.
Well, history seems to have proven that the one-person model has had a pretty rocky success rate. We've kind of churned them out. Because it's a new position. We're basically kind of asking someone to not just be an HR person, but to like build an entire department. I think we have seen a combination of overwhelmment and burnout from people that have had this position in the past. So I am kind of sympathetic to getting that department some support for what they have to do. But is it possible, we still have the assistant town administrator position available? I don't think we specifically called out any like HR background for that position, but I know when we were coming up with that position, we did have a thought of that role, in addition to being just the assistant town administrator, could kind of have another role with another department to like help them out. So I don't know if maybe if we're unsuccessful with getting the support for an additional resource for human resources, maybe there might be a way during the assistant town administrator search that we can kind of vet candidates that have some sort of a HR background, so that they could at least be some sort of an assistance. And even from an administrative assistant standpoint, so I mean, we have resources we could split and divvy up to assist that office. I know it's a tough year, so it's a tough call, but we just have history has proven we've had some difficulty with getting that department like up and going. So I can understand the need for some support. The responsibility for that department is it's important. It's needed. But like we all said, it's a tough year, so it's going to be some difficult decisions.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see it as like as similar departments. Fire department probably would say the same, like what they used to do and what they do now has become increasingly
Right.
like has evolved and is different. I do think like there are more regulations. And I think, I don't know, I feel like when we were interviewing, we kind of went into it, was like settle in, audit what the situation, the needs of the town and the department, and then come with a recommendation. And I think that's the beginning of this. I mean, I'm also thinking too, like, it's, I think, difficult for these departments to come in and advocate for themselves with like these dollar amounts like attached to it. So, I would like to, I mean, we're in the middle of the process now, but I'd like to, in the future, start the discussions much earlier, minus like either have the department heads come in or supply information so the people who are determining the fate of those departments, which is a lot of times the budget component, are like well-versed going into budget season versus, being, having a lot of information presented to them and having to like make these decisions. Like, I think, what the decisions of the departments should be something that is discussed, probably year round. Like, what are some issues you're having? What's going well? What's not? So that when we get to budget season, there isn't just, I need a new person and people are questioning that. Now, you can assign any multiple departments to that kind of problem that we're having now. It's again, that person or that position has a dollar amount attached, and we're trying to quickly get other boards up to speed so they can advocate for it. So I would like to see, maybe, I don't know what the solution is to that problem right now. Maybe it's, like I said, having them in more often, or maybe it's a different like reporting structure we can provide that everyone's aware of like I said, the pain, what's going well, so that we're not like having to make these rush decisions during this budget season, because it's a lot to get people together, and then the weeks go by very quickly, and then we're kind of like up against a wall, and then the window kind of closes. And I just think we owe it to these departments to be kind of making those like, having those discussions, well in advance. And that's not a knock on the schedule. I know the FinCom chair has tried very hard to get started in November. I mean, I think it's something that is on us to, how do we like best communicate to that board and other boards that have these, responsibilities so that they're not up against the wall in a real tight time frame. So a long-winded way of saying, like, how do we communicate these needs more effectively, so that we can, be more thoughtful about this.
Madam Chair.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think HR is an especially difficult one
Yeah.
because it is coming from nothing. And I think, without speaking for the director, they're struggling to just get the day-to-day things. In an ideal world, this department is not just doing payroll and benefits, but it's looking at professional,
Bylaws.
professional improvement,
Mhm.
and making sure we're up to standards and that employees are protected and trained. And, it's important stuff. And just because we're not doing it now doesn't mean it's not important. And so I'm as guilty as anybody that I go to HR when I need it at work, but I know there's a lot going on there behind the scenes that is important. And so I'd love to see at least one of these positions get filled, just to give them help and to show what they can do. It's almost a proof of,
Is there a possibility of like, if the generalist is the wish list, and then you have
Yeah.
a full-time admin, but even proposing, a 19-hour per week position for an admin where, if the person can come in for 3 6-hour days or whatever the case is, at least there's some support that takes place that doesn't come with a significant cost.
Yeah.
It might not be the worst idea if, after reviewing this draft, if the board feels strongly about one or two positions that they'd like to talk further about the possibility of including. Perhaps if we voted as a board, just as a sign of solidarity for some of these positions that we'd just like to have further discussion. We don't have to do it tonight. I know the time is, I don't know how much time we have left, or if waiting till another meeting would make it too late, but because the other one, I mean, the glaring omission for me in this budget is the fire prevention safety officer. And the unfortunate thing is, last year we actually budgeted 70,000. We knew that was a little bit light for that position. We weren't able to fill it. I know the request was 125. I think that's still negotiable. It doesn't have to be 125. I think it could be somewhere between 70 and 125. But since I've been on this board, I've listened to Chief Lutz say how dire the situation is and how behind we are in fire safety inspections. And I'm surprised that this is not prioritized higher based on this is a big deal. If something happens and if we have a fire and then we find out that was on the list of properties that we just weren't able to get to because we weren't staffed enough to do it, it's going to be it's going to be a bad look. And the other component of it is Chief Lutz is the one doing most of these fire inspections, and it consumes many hours every week out of his week. And he's the chief. He's got a department to run. He's got a lot of things to do, and for him to be devoting a large portion of his time just doing safety inspections and not managing the fire department, I think it's also kind of like a double hit. So not only would this position make the town safer, it would free up the chief to better manage the fire department and give him more hours of being able to focus at the fire department. So I don't know where we were just talking about the HR position. It sounds like there's a lot of support for that. I'm just curious kind of where the board kind of stands. In my mind, I think the one position that I mean, I understand HR. HR would probably second for me, but the fire prevention safety officer, to me, I think is a glaring omission in the budget. And I'm just curious if we, as a board, if we kind of have to pick one or two positions, does the board feel that the fire prevention officer would be one of those positions that we would want to engage with the finance committee and try to find a way, dig through the budget and see if we can move some things around to make that position a possibility, make it a reality.
I agree with you fully. And I'm in full support of that position. And I echo exactly what you just said.
Is this something we're gonna fight for and be told that I can't do anything
Yeah.
with that number, which is, I think, what we've been told so far?
I guess it depends. It was communicated that the 70,000 was on the low range. I mean, even before it was communicated that 70,000 wasn't possible to fund that position. I don't know if, I think 125 maybe on the high side. If we wanted to try to find, I'd be willing to discuss something in between those two numbers and just get some feedback from Chief Lutz on something that he thinks is at least reasonable to have a decent chance to fill that position. And then I would obviously insist that this position get posted, like, generally. I was too. Yeah, I was a little, we talked to Chief Lutz in the past about, said you gotta post the position, and then to find out that it was only posted internally was kind of it just wasn't, when someone says they're gonna post something, the assumption to me is that it's posted for everyone. If you post it internally, you say, I'm posting it internally, you give it with that extra description. So this would definitely be a position that I would like to see posted for more applicants to be able to fill it, only due to the importance of it. Want to get as many applications as possible.
I guess
Well,
that's my,
yeah, sorry.
that's my frustration.
I
is
don't
that
know.
If they say it's such a dire need and we give them $70,000 and they don't do it, they spend $1, it's kind of eroding at their credibility there.
I guess I was
Well,
confused, like, is it low,
Halftime
is that low for the internal people that it was posted to? That's, I guess. And then also too, it was mentioned, like, I didn't think it needed to be a union position. So I do think there's a lot of kind of like, how do we settle up on this? Because I
Right.
guess if
I
it
don't-
does, then it does. I don't subscribe to that, but I don't.
I admit maybe I should know that. I don't know that detail if it has to be a union position or not, but regardless, the first step is having money in the budget. And I don't know if it's fair to say, I don't know what they could, it is a dire need, but if you have a dire need for a principal and you only advertise $50,000 a year, you're not going to get a principal. So the salary has to reflect the market reality of what that position is expected. I don't pretend to know enough about it to know if the 125 is where we have to be. I do suspect that the 70 is on the low side. I think our best bet would be to just work with the finance committee on some figure in between these two numbers that Chief Lutz thinks is still reasonable enough to get a decent amount of applicants, because it's just been kind of frustrating. It's been almost every year since I've been on the select board that he has been saying that this is a glaring need. And I know there are, we're working on things with the fire department, but that one particular request, I think makes a lot of sense, and I think is the right thing to do for the town. If the fire chief is admitting that even if he spent all his time, he wouldn't be able to put a dent in all of these inspections. To me, it's just it's a scary statement. And I think he does have some information he could probably share with us just to put into context how dire the need is for an extra resource to do these inspections, because prevention is much preferred than fighting. I'd rather focus more on prevention than that's, if you can stop the incident before it even happens, that's the best way. And it just sounds like we're just not able to keep up, especially with all the new, I mean, it's positive that we're having all this new activity in town and new buildings but all of them need to be inspected, and we have a lot of new construction going on. So I think it's a totally logical and rational request from the fire department. And if we're selecting as a select board, a couple positions that we'd like to advocate for, I would just recommend that the fire prevention officer be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I have one last piece that I just want
Mm-hmm.
to put out there. One concern I have with the budget, overall is we have departments that receive state aid and some federal aid, and we seem every year to be kind of flying in the dark with what they have in those accounts. And one in particular is with the library, and based on what they have in there for donation accounts and what they've received from the state. I think on the last cherry sheet that I saw, it was about $47,000 is what was going to be funded. And as part of the budget process, there was mention of using that money to purchase furniture for a new library that may or may not be built. And as we've mentioned numerous times, with how things are fiscally at this time, I think we should be leaning on the departments now more than ever to try to figure out what they can fund from those accounts to offset the budget itself. So I don't know if, I know we had talked about it in the past, there was one request was on there for approximately $8,000 for technology. I thought that we had discussed that was gonna be reduced because of the ARPA investment in technology. That was still there, and then there was a placeholder that was mentioned this last go around of approximately $5,000 for a logo that had already been created. So I think we kind of have to go through with a fine tooth comb and really see what can we reduce, remove, table, what can be funded from within those, from the alternative funding sources like the state or the federal, at the federal level. So however the subcommittee shapes up, I think that's a conversation that really needs to be at the forefront because, as I mentioned in the past, our budget goes up approximately just under 4% annually, and some of it is there's nothing we can do about. Some of it, I think we have to be a little more creative. That's that.
And I guess I will say that we have gotten some emails from department heads stating some additional information or context. If we're misrepresenting them here, please follow up with us. It's not our intent by any stretch. It's just to try to kind of wrap our arms around this particular topic. So please reach out if you feel like you've misrepresented what was said here. So it's a big ask. Any additional topics wanting to discuss about the budget specifically? No? Okay. I was on the budget subcommittee last year and just given all the additional attention needed by me for this position, I don't think I'll be able to serve on that subcommittee. I would like Mr. Covis to continue for, bridging last year and this year. At the last meeting, Mary, I think you volunteered, as you volunteered, Sean, are you interested in it?
May's brutal for me at work.
Yeah.
I would certainly do it if pressed, but if there's two people in front of me, I'm happy to step aside.
Okay. Are you two still interested? I mean, it might just have to be,
If Eddie wants to do it, go ahead.
okay.
I mean, I can still go to every meeting
Yeah,
and participate or.
Okay.
When I feel, but
I think more people hearing the discussion is fantastic. If you don't mind serving.
No, I
Mhm.
don't mind at all. We won't get in any trouble because three of us are at
I,
a thing together, right?
I think, I mean, I think attending a meeting is still, but it's just can't participate in it.
Okay. I'm fine, yeah.
I mean, if I have no problem attending, if you want to participate.
no.
Yeah, that's
No,
fine if you
no.
wanna.
It's fine. Perfectly fine.
All right. Excited. I'll send that message to the FinCom chair. Okay. If there's nothing else regarding the budget, we can move forward. Town administrator report.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. What I'd like to start with just briefly on ARPA update. I know there's something on the sheet, but that's a previous update, so you can disregard that when it gets to the old and new business. Just wanted to confirm that the the annual report was submitted to Treasury on all the projects, and all the obligated projects have been entered in the portal, and everything has been closed out. The next annual report would be due on spending for 2025 will be due in April of 26. So since I think our last report, the police radios and dispatch consoles have been completed. The town hall floor replacement project is underway. They're nearing completion in a week or so. And the Union Water Street line is just about to get started. All the paperwork and job meetings have taken place to get started. I'm sure probably the weather was holding them back a little bit, but that'll be starting soon. So, and I know facilities has a number of projects where equipment has been ordered and just waiting for the good weather, which we're into now, to actually get some of those going. So I would anticipate by the end of the summer that pretty much most of the projects will be completed, except for some of the bigger ongoing, strand and wheat and some of those type of things that will take place. But I think most of these projects will be done, I think, in the next several months. So it's just good. So we want to make sure that we spend the money while it's the money is in our treasury. So we want to make sure we spend it so it doesn't go back or be taken back. So, all right. So thank you. The DPW superintendent had submitted a few things that he just wanted to update the board. They had started the street sweeping for the season, and then the machine had broken down. So they're waiting for some parts to be delivered, and they will be back on it again. And they kind of do a pass through every street in town, but it may delay a couple weeks by their completion. So, but generally completion isn't usually done until the summer anyways. By the time they get to all the neighborhoods, they try and start on one side of town, go to the other, and then the next year they start on that where they ended and then go back the other way, just so people aren't always waiting until the end of the season. So that is ongoing. They have also started doing the crosswalk and stop bar painting, which they said will take about 2 months to complete by doing it with their own crew. Line painting, they have quotes for the center lines, which they do have a company will come in and do that. The work is scheduled for June. So, and the replacement of the American flags down in downtown, that they're in the process of getting that done, and and committed that it will be done prior to Memorial Day. So they're in getting started on that project as well. those are a few things that they wanted to put forward. Also, the last thing I just wanted to mention to the board, we are in now the process of getting our borrowing together for this year. We have a bond anticipation note that we had put through for last year that is expiring in June 7th. So we need to determine if that is going to be just rolled over. Our bond advisor is recommending that we actually bond that. It's the town portion is about 3 million. There was 7.5 million for the school project for design this year. So it would be about 10.8 million, I think, that we'd be looking at to bond that whole amount. Plus, then we have to look at what the school project is going to need for construction for the upcoming year. So tomorrow, I'll be participating in a bond rating call with Standard & Poor's tomorrow afternoon, and which is generally an hour and a half of kind of answering any of their financial questions and talking about the fiscal health of the town to see if we can maintain or hopefully improve our bond rating with that service. And then we'll kind of go from there to start asking our bond advisor to put a package together for bid to go from there. So the bond market kind of went a little askew when the tariffs were announced, and like treasury bonds were a safe investment. So when people were having difficulties in the stock market, they were selling off the treasury bonds in order to shore up their portfolios, and it skyrocketed the price on the T-bills. Our bond advisor said in the last 2 weeks that's kind of come back down to reality again. So initially they were talking about just rolling everything over and maybe just doing enough for the school for 6 months, not for the whole year, just to try to kind of see if the market would calm down. But now it's kind of come back to normal a little bit. So, once we do our bond rating call tomorrow, and then we'll kind of get some advice from them as to how much we'll be borrowing, whether it's just that 10 million, and then that'll kind of get through at least probably the summer for the school project, and then maybe borrow again after that for the rest of the fiscal year for the school construction, or whether we do it now. So, and then there was a discussion between if we did go with the bigger portion of the whole year borrowing, and if we would again do a ban or a bond. We got to determine that, and whether it's 25-year or 30-year, because the school project can be put out for 30 years. But on the school piece of it, it's only half. It's only half of the project because we would borrow the whole amount that wouldn't be needed for 3 years from now. But that half, say about 35 million, going out 30 years. If we pulled that back 5 years to 25 years, it would save $6 million in interest over that period. And it would add only about $20 per year onto the average tax bill. So we thought that $20 would be a better value than saving the $6 million to take 5 years off the borrowing. So if that sounded reasonable, we'll probably kind of geared towards that 25-year note instead of 30-year. If it was a large amount, it would be to the average homeowner, it would be about $350. So if it with that half of that money, so then the other half will probably be another $350 for the total project. Probably end up around the 700 to 800 range, I think, which was being talked about at the beginning when the project was being floated. But I just thought that for $20 a year, I think saving millions and millions of dollars in interest, I think, was a better way to go. So I'll know more. Well, not tomorrow because tomorrow's the meeting, but then I think by Monday or so they'll give us the results, and I can keep the board updated on how that process is going. So. Okay, so I think that's what I had for now.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is administrative business, late night closings. The new owner of Hometown Tavern is requesting late night closings for Saturday throughout 2025.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the late night closing request for Hometown Tavern for Saturdays throughout 2025.
Second, and I have a question. So it's just for Saturdays, 1
Right.
o'clock?
Yeah,
Because
just so from.
future, I got all
Yeah.
twisted up in these future transferring and maybe we can get to it when we get there. As long as it's just for Saturdays, because I've got a lot of different times here, and then they've got 3 nights that are Thursday, Friday, Saturday till 1 o'clock for the jukebox. So I guess we'll get to that later, or that.
That's
Right, according to the liquor rules of opening rules, Thursday and Friday, they can open till 1. Saturday can only open till midnight. So generally, they ask for the extra hour just for Saturday.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, I'm all set.
I'm sorry, was it seconded?
I say.
You seconded. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Okay, next up is the annual Poppy Drive, annual Buddy Poppy Drive. The VFW Post 523 is requesting permission to conduct their annual Buddy Poppy Drive at the intersection of High Street and Church Street to raise funds for veteran causes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the VFW Post 523 request for their annual Buddy Poppy Drive at the intersection of High Street and Church Street.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a date for that, or is that just open? Looking
I
on
thought it was Memorial Day weekend usually, but
Okay.
you're right, it doesn't have a date. I don't think- Oh, wait. Saturday, May 24th, from 9 to 3.
1, 2, 3.
So swing on by, Clintonians. All right, next up we have the Spruce Street Tavern Liquor License Pledge Agreement. The owners are seeking approval to pledge the liquor license as part of the seller financing plan.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the Spruce Street Tavern's request for, to pledge the liquor license as part of a seller financing plan.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Just looking at this, this application, it says the applicant contact is Hilbin O'Neill, which I think is supposed to be Philbin O'Neill, so just a heads up that
Okay.
looks like that's a typo.
Check on that.
You're trying
That's
to
the
email that person.
paperwork they had sent. Yep.
Yeah, right, let them, or just, I don't know if we have to email them back or something.
Yeah,
Just a heads up.
that would have to go to Boston, so. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
ARPA projects, that was already covered.
Yeah, we already. did.
Okay.
Yep.
The road resurfacing contract, Superintendent of Public Works Kevin Bartlett is recommending to award the paving contract to PJ Keating of Lunenburg.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Superintendent of Public Works to award the paving contract to PJ Keating of Lunenburg.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would request that there are no saw cuts on the sidewalk, only tool joints, if possible.
And
don't know what
cuts
that
through
means.
any 90-degree cuts in the sidewalk, so we don't have any cracks.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed, 5-0.
And just to mention to Madam Chair on that memo with the recommendation, he did list some of the streets that he was looking to do for the upcoming year. So there was any comment or question on that, so we can follow up with the superintendent further, but he kind of listed out the ones that he sees as a priority for this year.
Well, I will say that Acre Street and Acre Court and Top Street, those are almost unpassable, so I'm glad to see that they're on their list.
Yeah, Pearl Street as well.
Yes. I think every street on here really needs to, I think he's right on.
Issuance of licenses to Hometown Tavern. The new owners of Hometown Tavern are seeking to move existing common victular, entertainment, jukebox, and pool tabler licenses from Tea's Liberty Tavern.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the transfer or the issuance of license for the common victualler, entertainment jukebox, and pool tabler license from Tea's Liberty Tavern to Hometown Tavern.
I'll second, and I also have a question. So like the common vic one, it says Sunday through Wednesday, 12 to 12. So is that not Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or is that under a different one?
Yeah, the common vic, that should be. Let me take a look.
Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, that should be for whatever their,
Okay.
their regular operation is, yeah.
Can we amend that for them, or do they have to come in and do that again? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's okay for the entertainment and the pool table is fine, jukebox is fine. That's just what jumped out at me. Because, yeah, it doesn't have.
Yeah, so at least they'll only be doing entertainment on the weekends, but, yeah, so they should be like, kind of like the pool tables, just open to close, because the common vic would run with the whole business operation.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, so we'll change that.
So they'll change that. I'm fine with it. I just
Hmm.
want to make sure they get what they need.
Yeah, because then they put Sunday through Wednesday for jukebox, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that should also have been added to the common vic too. Yep.
So the common vic needs to be updated based on the jukebox,
Well, they're open, right now it's just Sunday through Thursday, Sunday through
Sunday
Wednesday.
through Wednesday.
Right, yeah. Yeah, but it would be all the same, because
Okay.
it's whenever they're open, the common vic and the jukebox would be used, and the pool tables will all be used, yep, but whenever they're open, yeah.
Okay.
And then their entertainment would just be for Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
With those changes, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay, next we have personnel updates.
Turn.
Oh, sorry. Golf
turn.
turn, yeah, sorry. Letter for Turnverein National Golf, it's golf.
It
tournament.
is.
Oh, sorry, golf, yeah.
Golf tournament. They will be hosting the organization's national golf tournament this year and are requesting a letter from the select board to include in the program.
I think it was, Madam Chair, about maybe 10 years ago, so I think it's on a rotation throughout the country, and Clinton hosted it a number of years ago. And they were just looking for the select board to do, it's not, they don't need it till June, but just a welcome letter, and they put in their program book, and, inviting all the people from around the country to town, and, and just wishing them well and all that type of thing. So I can give the chair a draft of what we did before and see if that's something that you would like to continue with that, or amend it as needed. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the request for a letter from the select board to the Turner Vereen program book as drafted by the town administrator and chair.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Okay, just wanted to give an additional, continued personnel updates, specifically about the town administrator search. The window is closed for applicants, And, in speaking with the HR manager who is assisting me with this process, the next steps would be, to, either get, a screening committee together of a subset of this group. Or if we, cannot agree on 2 people for that screening committee, or we will need to anonymize it and go through the process. So the initial screening would be, it would be screening all the applicants we've received. The HR department would compile a list of recommended applicants based on that screen for review by the screening committee. Send a list of screened applications and resume cover letters of recommended applicants to the subcommittee with guidelines for further screening. And then I guess, depending on, I guess that would be the next step. And depending on the makeup of the subcommittee, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 5 of us, they may be de-identified. So that means they would be anonymized. You would not see their name or contact information. You would just see their qualifications. Next would be our own independent screening. So the subcommittee will screen based on criteria of the job description, similar to what we had done for when we were considering using a consultant, a rubric scoring sheet to ensure fairness, transparency, and consistency. We will kind of score the applicants based on that. He is stressing it's vital that this is performed by each member, independent, without discussion. The subcommittee members will submit their rubric scores to Human Resources, and Human Resources will gather and combine the scores of the applicants to forward to the subcommittee with recommendations on next steps. And then there is the subcommittee screening discussion. The subcommittee will meet to discuss the results of the first phase. Subcommittee will determine which candidates based on scores and discussions to invite for initial interviews. If the subcommittee finds the pool underqualified, it may decide to move to identify other candidates, or move to a second pool. So that is the kind of next step in the process.
Is the subcommittee going to be only 2 people?
It could be if we agree to that, or
Why
it
wouldn't we want to
could
do it the
be-
way it was in the past, like do a search committee, like, get people have someone from the community, or why are we changing the
Or it's a
process?
little- Well, I wasn't aware of that process.
Oh.
This was we, again, wanted to use the consultant who had a different screening process, and now we have to pivot and use our internal Human Resources department as recommended by the Finance Committee to start the search. And this is their recommendations.
The finance committee wanted it that way?
Yeah. Well, they said use HR. That's what they're there for.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I think that we should keep that. I don't think there's any need to pick 2 people out of 5 for screening. I don't see any reason why. My preference would just be for all 5 of us to be involved and to screen the candidates and then get them narrowed down to a smaller selection for more consideration.
That's fine. The issue with that, though, is if you're gonna do it as a board, you're gonna do it as a public meeting. If you have
Yeah. we
have a screening committee where there's just 2 members of the board, you could have outside people, you could have members that aren't on the board too, but if you only had 2 of you, then you can do it in private, you know what I mean? But if there's at least 3 of you or the full board, when you're screening those, it's a public
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, that's
So-
why it would need to be anonymized, not only for our benefit, but for if we say the scenario is the screening is done, we all conduct the screening, we submit it to HR, there are, 3 candidates. If we are then discussing those candidates, they have to be candidate A, candidate B, candidate C.
But just to town council's point, though, if HR's recommendation that the names are anonymized, all we're doing is looking at resumes, we score it on a rubric format. So are we saying that like, can we do each of us individually without contacting each other, go through that portion of it? And then meet together publicly to review and select kind of like the next round?
Yeah, if everyone wants to be involved. So
If
we'll
we,
just have to hit like a tight time frame to
and
move
how,
it forward.
do you have an idea how many applicants are?
I believe there was 25 last I checked, but I don't have.
So
the
would we
full
be
numbers.
thinking how many rounds of interviews? My concern is that someone who maybe is looking for a job on the side might not want to do an early round interview in public. Which
Yeah, we'd have to.
we'd have to do all the interviews in public session.
Mhm.
I mean, you could do it publicly, but we could elect not to have it televised. Right?
Well,
I mean,
they'd have to say who they were. We can't just say test an A.
if we looked at, if this board, hypothetically, if we said, all right, let's look at, let's interview the top 5
Uh-huh.
based upon the scoring rubric. I mean, those interviews are done publicly at a school committee meeting, right?
Yeah, if we're only going 5, that's
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
that's,
essentially.
or whatever the number we choose, 3, 5, whatever. So, I think in a sense, you're just bypassing the initial interview and you're kind of going into a next round of interviews.
Yeah, if we're going from 25 down to like 5 or 7 or whatever, if you make it to that point, I think with all respect to people, I know that happens from time to time. You're looking for a job, you're not exactly advertising it, but at that point, I mean, the gig's up. I mean, you gotta this is,
Yeah.
you're putting in for the position. It's gotta be public.
Yeah. I'll double check on the number too, because it was just before it was closing, so there may have been more submitted on the deadline or past the deadline as well, so. But we're prioritizing people who made it in at the deadline.
I mean, it would be, my opinion would be no more than 5 candidates.
Yeah.
And if they're in open session, then nobody can claim that the process wasn't transparent.
I mean, yeah, we just, so, if that was your number, the 5, right, you're gonna do it,
Yeah.
then you just individually come up with the top 5. You would just notify those 5.
Right.
Like, before anything was public, in
Right,
case they wanted to withdraw.
Right.
yes,
You notify them, say, hey, you've made it to the final 5, you're not gonna be interviewed.
Yeah.
At a meeting. They
agreed,
give you the thumbs up or say, no, I'm gonna withdraw.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's fine too.
okay. Okay,
It would be just hypothetically top 5 scoring by the majority of the board. I mean, that would kind of be the idea.
Yep.
I think that's.
okay.
So just to kind of nail down the first stage of this, are we saying that, are we in agreement that between now and our next meeting, the expectation is that we've reviewed and ranked all the applicants?
Mhm.
Okay.
We're getting them tomorrow.
Well, maybe. It's busy in HR.
I mean, can we look at, like, could we look at having 1 week to rank them?
Yeah.
And then that gives human resources an opportunity to compile the data. And then,
Yeah, it won't be tomorrow, but I will send out a timeline via email on when it will be expected, but I think you can anticipate, like to give at least a week to get it done.
And then based upon that, so once human resource gets all your input, it comes up with the
And like
the top 5.
yeah, kind of,
So then the human resources then would contact those 5 before even letting the board know, and then ultimately then you then would, he would set up those interviews and notify the board. I just want we just got to make sure no one accuses us of, behind the scenes, that it's all
Right.
individual action, no deliberations, and then you're putting
Yes.
your information into the human resource manager, and then he's running with it and setting everything up.
Yeah, that's the intent, but
Yeah,
thank you for
okay.
clarifying. Yeah.
You know, I to that point, I would,
Mhm.
as part of the process, I would think that, once that information's compiled, then have human resources contact the top 5 for availability.
Yeah.
I would think we could get all that done prior to our next meeting. And then, if he needs to talk to us individually about our availability.
Yeah.
But I also think, just based upon, accommodating everybody's schedule, I think everyone just needs to make a sincere effort to be available. And if something comes up, that the majority of the board should be able to move forward.
Mhm. Okay. I will note that we did receive an email late last night regarding the town administrator's email about the town administrator and his contract, which we haven't really had a chance to review, and it was too late to put on as an executive session today, so that's that later. Okay. Next up. Committee reports.
None for me.
We have one community announcement. This is an announcement from the Department of Public Works. Beginning Monday, June 30th, which is the first recycle week of July. The recycling truck and staff will only be collecting recycled materials that are inside the town of Clinton issued green recycle bins. Recycled items placed outside the town issued recycle bins will not be taken. Single-family properties are issued one recycle bin only. We will not be adding more bins to single-family properties. So if you have been including your cardboard boxes in a box outside the bin or on top of the bin or other things, everything that is being recycled has to be inside the bin or it will be left on the curb. We will post something on our website in addition to that, as well as on our Facebook page for more information.
I just have one. On Monday, May 12th, 2025, Clinton High School will be playing Neshoba Regional High School. The baseball teams will be playing at Polar Park. The game time was originally scheduled for 6:05, but it's been moved to 7 p.m. And as a thank you, the boosters have provided a ticket for the Selectboard, town administrator, executive assistant, and town solicitor to attend.
Wow.
They have big bucks.
Yeah, wow.
They're not worth
Bob's in.
it, so there should be no ethics
Solicitation.
violations, all right? The face value is 0. But it was presented as a thank you, and we hope there's great weather
Wow.
on Monday.
Well, thank you for that.
Actually, and Joel Bates is going to be doing
DJ, Joe.
DJ.
the announcing at the park.
Excellent. That sounds like a fun time. Thank you for that. Thank you for the tickets, and hopefully I can make it my alma mater versus my current town, so.
Actually, we're missing a ticket, so I gotta go to.
Is that for me?
Well, plugging,
more community announcements?
yeah, the tribute road race is this Saturday. Hopefully the rain's gonna hold off. Starts, walkers start at 8:45, runners at 9. I think you can still register, beforehand. I know there's a bid pickup tomorrow, on the 8th from 6 to 8 at Sterling Street Brewery, and you might be able to sign up there. It's on Facebook, or if you search for Tribute Road Race. Come and beat the selectmen. I'm
I'm at work.
ripe for an upset, so
They're not running.
Ed, you running?
Are we getting
about it.
Uh-oh, little side,
All right.
side hustle here? What do you want to do? You want some action? Pick a charity.
Dog park.
All right. If that's all for community announcements, we are now moving from open session to closed executive session to discuss, Article 3, fire union negotiations, Article 3, police union negotiations, Article 3, police chief and lieutenant's employment agreements. We will not be returning to open session after that. We have a roll call to enter into executive session.
Ed DeVault, aye.
Sean Kerrigan, aye.
Julie Purse, aye.
Matt Kopus, aye.
Mary Dick, aye.